All right, there we go. I now call to order the City of Cottonwood Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting, Monday, July 17, 2023 at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stevens?
Here.
Commissioner Glasscott?
Here.
Commissioner Kling?
Here.
Commissioner Nelson?
Here.
Commissioner Gaylord? Vice Chairman Garrison?
Present.
Chairwoman Maston?
Here. Thank you very much. Our first order of business this evening is to approve the minutes for the meeting held on Monday, June 26th, 2023. Do any of the commissioners have any corrections or additions? Looking through everyone. All right, I don't see any corrections or additions, so I will entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes from the June 26th regular meeting.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously carried. Our next order of business are informational reports and updates. Mr. Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commission. Good evening. I don't have a whole lot for the Commission tonight, but I am going to put Commissioner Stevens on the spot. This is her last meeting with us, so we do want to thank her for her dedication and volunteering and being part of the Commission for as long as she has, and we wish her well.
Thank you.
We've really loved having you. All right. Our next order is call to the public. If there's anyone here from the public who would like to address the commission regarding any planning and zoning related item not on our agenda this evening, you may come up and speak. You'd have to fill out one of the forms in the back of the room, and each speaker is granted 3 minutes. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward? All right, no one is coming forward, so we're going to move on. Oh, ma'am. Okay. And you want to speak on something not on the agenda this evening?
No, I think it's on the agenda.
Okay. Then we will move on right now, and you can speak when that item comes up. To start off our meeting tonight, we have one item of old business on the agenda, DR 23-004, which is a request for design review for a 75-foot tall monopine wireless communications tower. Just before staff gets started, commissioners, please note that this is a design review addressing the request for excess height. We're not deliberating on the tower itself.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commission. I'm Tina Hayden for Community Development, and I have the DR 23004 application for design review for the tower. Commissioner Stevens, if you would mind passing that around. Those are just the materials. Be careful, they are falling apart.
Rustic.
The requests that we are looking for this evening are twofold. The first one is design review for a 75-foot tower. Staff requests that you consider the application and all the submittals. You consider the staff recommendations and findings for an 8-foot fence, and then consider staff recommended stipulations. The second request that we are making is a recommendation and findings to City Council regarding the excess height over 60 feet for the tower. The Commission does need to state findings that support a recommendation to approve. The project details: the parcel, the site in question is a C1 light commercial zone. The site acreage is 0.8 acres approximately. The proposed project is a 75-foot monopine cell tower. There is also a 35 by 45-foot tower compound that will hold all of the other ground level components for the tower. The applicant has stated that there is opportunity for future co-location. At this time, there's no proposed changes or impacts to the existing business on site. And as of May 19th of this year, Ordinance 730 is in effect. This ordinance is a text amendment that allows a tower to be located closer to a lot line closer than its reclining length, subject to the provision of structural engineering plans that are to be approved by the city engineer and building official. This is the proposed site plan. The arrows here are the access points to the site. These are the existing buildings on site. There are 4 of them. This parking space is a non-exclusive tech parking area. It was not required for the tower, but it is provided. And this is the area where the tower compound will be located. We have a zoomed-in site plan of the tower compound. The green rectangle is the perimeter fence proposed at 8 feet. The blue circle is the fall radius. The purple circle in the center is the tower base. And then the 2 red lines here on the east line and the south line show the adjacent property boundaries. This is an elevation of the proposed 8-foot tall screening fence. Some of the tower components, the ground level components, reach 8 feet 9 inches, and that is why staff is requesting that 8-foot tall fence. These are the elevations of the tower. The elevation on the left is the view from East Coconino looking south. The view, elevation on the right is the view from that residential property that's adjacent, looking west towards Maine. Then this elevation to the left is the view from the development services building looking northward. Elevation to the right is the view from Main Street looking east. The applicant has provided renderings. We have a before image on the left and an after rendering on the right. This is looking towards Coconino Street southwards. As you can see, right here is where the tower is proposed to be. This is looking southeast from Coconino Street. Again, we have the tower right here. This is looking from Main Street. And here is the proposed tower. Then the last rendering here, looking southwest on Coconino. This is the adjacent residential property here. This is the proposed tower. I did do a site visit just to determine the screening fence that was present, screening wall. It is approximately 5 foot tall, which does not meet screening requirements when adjacent to a residential property. And then this is the proposed site for the tower compound. For the fence height, staff has provided findings that support the increase to 8 feet, from 6 feet to 8 feet. Regarding compatibility of land uses, there is an existing single-family residence, so screening is required. Regarding environmental effects, staff has determined that there's no health effects for the additional 2 feet of fencing. And then for potential nuisance created by commercial or industrial use, due to some of the components being 8 feet 9 inches tall, staff does recommend an 8-foot tall fence. The stipulations for design review approval, staff will read into the record. Number 1, the project shall be developed in conformance with the development plans as reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at the June 26, 2023 meeting. Strike that. I will actually change this to this meeting today. Number 1, the project shall be developed in conformance with the development plans as reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at the July 17th, 2023 meeting. The project shall conform to the Code Review Board comment letter dated December 2nd, 2022, and any additional Code Review Board comments. Number 3, the project shall comply with all applicable sections of the zoning ordinance, including, but not limited to, C1 property development standards, general provisions, signs, parking and loading requirements, landscaping requirements, and outdoor lighting code. Number 4, the wireless tower shall be constructed as a monopine with a minimum of 3 branches per foot of tower height. Number 5, a building permit application must be submitted within 24 months of design review approval. If this requirement is not met, the design review approval shall be revoked, and new code review and design review submittals will be required. The applicant has provided coverage maps to help the commission make a finding on the height exceeding 60 feet. Per the zoning ordinance, the recommended finding to council is the additional tower height is the least intrusive means of filling a significant gap in the wireless communication providers coverage within the city. This is the site map that the applicant has provided. Right here on the lower left is the existing T-Mobile tower. And then up here towards the right is the proposed tower that we have brought to you tonight. This is the current coverage map. The green is showing indoor coverage, the availability of indoor coverage. The yellow shows the availability of in-vehicle coverage, and red shows the availability of on-street coverage. Everywhere else, there is no coverage. Right here is the proposed tower location, and then within this area, this is the general area where the tower would cover. As you can see, there's very minimal coverage for indoor and out and in vehicle. These are the applicant provided coverage maps for a tower proposed at 60 foot in height, and then another tower proposed at 70 feet. Again, arrows indicate here and here the existing T-Mobile tower, and right here is the proposed tower. This is the slide for the 60-foot tower. As you can see, we have a lot of indoor coverage, some outdoor coverage here. And then when we go down to the proposed 75-foot tower, we see that that coverage actually expands outward into this blue oval here. That is the end of my presentation. The applicant has also put together a presentation to go more in depth if the commission requires that.
Thank you very much. Does anyone on the commission have any questions for city staff? Remembering that we will also be able to talk to the applicant. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Tina. Nice presentation. Thank you. Is this the same tower we looked at a month or so ago?
Commissioner Nelson, yes, it was. Back in May is when we looked at this. At that point, it was a tie vote for a motion to approve. So staff did look at the zoning ordinance to see if it was possible to bring this back to you. There's no time stipulation that needs to pass before the applicant can come back for design review.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? All right. Oh, yes. Go ahead, Commissioner Stevens.
Is it 75? Because I have part of my notes show 80-foot tall monopine, I can't speak. So is it the 75 or is it the 80? And does that include the little lightning rod or?
Commissioner Stevens, we did discuss further with the applicant compared to what we brought you in May. They did confirm that it is a 75-foot tall tower. The antenna goes up to 75 feet. It should not exceed. I would also like to add, I failed to mention, that we did receive one comment letter from a member of the public that is against this project. The commission has been informed via email and with written copy or printed copy. So just needed to make that statement. So.
All right. Thank you very much, Tina. We would love to speak to the applicant, I assume, almost always. Could the applicant come forward, please? Hi. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Hi, my name is Shannon McCrae. I'm with State 48 Development Consulting, and we also have an RF specialist here as well. I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself.
I'm Stephen Kennedy. I'm a radio frequency engineer. I'm a consultant to various tower companies and wireless carriers.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Commissioners, I assume we have questions for the applicant. Who would like to go first? Really?
Ask him your question because it was relevant.
Is it going to be 80 feet or is it 75 and that includes the lightning grounding pole tower?
Yes, ma'am. So in our initial presentation that we had done the last time, we had the lightning rod at 10 feet, so it was exceeding 5 feet above the top of the branches. We did go in and revise that, so now it's a height of 5 feet, so it does not exceed the top of the branches, so the overall height will be a maximum of 75 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Commissioner Glasscutt?
No questions.
Commissioner Kling?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Nelson?
No, I think since it's the same one we looked at in May, I think we looked at what you were doing, and yeah, I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
All right. Vice Chair?
No questions.
Shocking. All right. This is so rare. I'm just going to grab onto it. I happen to not have any questions for you this evening. However, this is an opportunity. If there's anything additional that you would like to share with the commission, you may do so now.
Nope, I think Tina did a great job at covering everything, and obviously we have our additional coverage maps if anyone has any questions regarding that, but I appreciate you guys hearing us out today, and thank you for looking over everything ahead of time.
All right. Thank you very much. You may be seated. At this time, we are opening the floor to the public for anyone who wants to speak either for or against this project. Just some guidelines. You do have to fill out the form in the back and bring that forward. Introduce yourself for the record, and each speaker has 3 minutes. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak for or against this project?
I did, but I didn't get phone.
Oh, you didn't? You can do that really quickly. You can just bring it to me. Thank you very much. And just make sure to speak into the mic so that it picks you up.
Hi, my name is Mimi White, and I live in Cottonwood, and I'm very, very close to where this tower is to be built, and for years I've been aware of some very bad side effects from these cell towers when you live near them, and I was never notified. No one in my neighborhood, no one I know was notified of these cell towers before my neighbor, who lives in a completely different area but is active with what's going on, told me about them. So I am in opposition to it. I know everyone wants the convenience of immediate cell delivery and everything else, but we overlook that. We take convenience to overlook health in our community too much, and I'm in objection to this.
Thank you very much. And that's now in the record. Is there anyone else who wanted to come forward and speak for or against this project? All right, I don't see anyone coming forward, so I'm going to close the floor to the public at this time. And I'm just going to go through and give each commissioner an opportunity to talk about their thoughts on this project. Commissioner Stevens? Okay, we can do that. Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens, I appreciate it. No, everything, since it's a repeat that we saw in May, all my concerns were addressed then. So no, I have nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Stevens, see what you do to me.
I have to, it's my last meeting. I believe we addressed everything, and I thought, or at least I was under the impression this second go-around between May and now, the applicant or somebody was reaching out to the local area to see if more neighbors, if it impacted or not. Did that ended up happening?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Stevens, they did reach out to the immediate adjacent property owner. They included in the packet their certified mail receipt that it was received. There's no requirement, nor was there any other notification made for further out than that.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Glasscott?
I have no, just, it's a review of the other one. I thought it was supposed to go to the city council after our tie vote, though.
Commissioner Glasscott, yes, it could have. We did give that option to the applicant if they wanted to go, but with that being a failed motion, they took the opportunity to come back to the commission to see if that recommendation might change.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kling?
With regard to the health concerns, I would be curious as to if we've had any reportings of the existing tower that's, I mean, it's been here for quite a while, yes? The one parallel that we spoke about. Has there been any reportings along the years of that one causing problems?
Not that I've ever been aware of.
Okay.
That's good to know.
One existing, so.
Yeah. Vice Chair?
The last time you were in here, we had some concerns about the neighbors being notified, and in our packet, it showed that you had actually contacted that neighbor, so that satisfied that for me. And then the other was there was some misunderstanding or some conflicting information about the tower height. That's also been addressed, so my questions have been answered, so thank you for bringing that back and clarifying all those for us.
All right, it's my turn. So I echo some of my commissioners' sentiments. I feel like we have talked about this now at some length because it is a project that we've seen before. I really appreciate that you did reach out to the direct neighbor and talk to that person. And just for the public in general, for a project like this, there is no requirement, just to echo what staff said, there's no requirement for the applicant to alert the neighbors. And again, the cell tower itself could go up without special design review. The design review is just for the additional 15 feet of height that they would like to do to increase coverage. A tower itself could go up without design review up to 60 feet. So that's not what we're deliberating on today. We're only deliberating on that excess height and the fence, which I forgot about earlier because it just feels very obvious. So that said, I believe we are ready to entertain a motion, Mr. Vice Chair.
Madam Chair, real quick, there would be two separate motions, one for design review, one for the recommendation to council.
Yes, but we're combining them, right?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
I move to approve DR 23-004 to allow a 75-foot tall monopine wireless communication tower subject to the stipulations that were read into the record by staff.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Glasscott?
Yes.
Commissioner Kling?
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garrison?
Aye.
And Chairwoman Maston.
Aye. Unanimously carried. Second motion?
I move to recommend approval to the City Council to allow a 75-foot tall wireless communication tower that exceeds the 60-foot permitted allowance by 20 feet at 127 North Main Street. The Planning and Zoning Commission finds that the additional tower height is the least intrusive means of filling a significant gap in the wireless communications providers' coverage within the city.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Glasscott?
Yes.
Commissioner Kling?
No.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garrison?
Aye.
Chairwoman Maston?
Aye. Carried. All right. Thank you very much. Congratulations. We are now moving on to new business. And the first item is a conditional use permit for the Fogel Brothers Restaurant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Gary Davis with Community Development. This is an item to consider revocation of the 2020 conditional use permit for the drive-through element only. The restaurant itself is a permitted use in C1. That's not at issue here. The only issue here is the drive-through element that was proposed in 2020. That was approved subject to a site plan, which we'll see in a minute. That drive-through has not been in use since at least September 2022, which is more than 6 months ago. In the zoning ordinance, the Planning and Zoning Commission may revoke the conditional use permit if the use ceases to exist for 6 months or more. Again, this is the drive-through use only, not the restaurant itself. That has been more recently opened than that, but we're just limiting our deliberation to the drive-through element. This shows the location of the property on the northeast side of Main Street near the intersection with Willard. The land to the west and the immediate east is also C1 zoned. There's some commercial to the west. And to the northeast is R2 residential in the Old Town neighborhood. And to the south is CR zoning, which is a mix of commercial and residential uses. This is the site plan that was submitted in 2020. The site plan shows 3 buildings on the site. 1 is the main restaurant, 2 is a retail building in the middle, and 3 is a former car wash structure. That's where the drive-through use was. The idea was for cars accessing the parking lot to make a kind of a U-shaped motion through the property and then back out onto Main Street. Those using the drive-through were directed around to the east, where it went through one of the bays of the drive-through, where there was a food truck that was serving. Again, that's not serving anymore. This site plan shows a number of vintage buses on the site, including the food truck facilities here. We've had some code enforcement issues related to those. They don't appear to be directly related to the drive-through use itself. This is a picture of the bay right in the center. That is where the food delivery was in a food truck just short of that bay. And you can see a number of vehicles parked around the site right now. This is a view looking west on Main Street across the front of the buildings, and looking the opposite way across the front of the buildings. We've drafted 2 motions for you. One is to revoke, and the other one is not to revoke. If the decision is not to revoke, we recommend several stipulations. These are identical to the stipulations that were approved with the 2020 approval of the conditional use permit for the drive-through, with the exception of what you see in red here, and that deals with the vehicles on the property. And I'll read these into the record in case this is the motion. Number 1, that the project is developed in conformance with the site plan submitted with this application and reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission on October 19th, 2020, except that no vehicles shall remain on the property unless directly used for drive-through service. Number 2, no electronic loudspeaker shall be used for the drive-through for drive-in ordering. Number 3, trucks used for serving shall be currently registered and readily movable. Number 4, the project shall be developed in conformance with the zoning ordinance, section 407 landscaping requirements, to the extent possible given the pre-existing hardscape. Number 5, parking for the project, including bicycle parking, shall be provided in conformance with the zoning ordinance, section 406, parking and loading requirements. Number 6, the project shall comply with the code review requirements dated August 27th, 2020. Number 7, a shared parking and access agreement signed by all owners is required. Number 8, a certificate of zoning compliance documenting completion of the conditions shall be issued within 12 months of the date of this approval. Number 9, the City of Cottonwood reserves the right to revoke the conditional use permit, CUP, if the use creates an irremediable public safety problems as determined by the city. We did send notice to the property owner and property owners within 300 feet, as is required with the conditional use permit. I did get one email inquiry from a property owner asking what the issue was, and I explained that the issue is related to the drive-through only. He responded that overall this restaurant has been a good neighbor. Somebody across the street made that comment. And if it is revoked, then the applicant or a new property owner could come in after a certain amount of time and start over if a drive-through use was desired. Generally, a drive-through use isn't a desirable use in a place like Old Town, which is more pedestrian-oriented, not so much automobile-oriented like down the south side of town. So that's why it's a conditional use in C1. But that could be, again, reconsidered at some point by the property owner or by any subsequent owner. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I believe the applicant is here and may be able to answer any questions you've got on the operation. But again, we're deliberating solely on the drive-through element of the property, and not the restaurant itself or any peripheral issues beyond the conditional use permit.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, do any of you have any questions for Mr. Davis?
So this is brought up due to someone bringing it to your attention, or just due to the lack of use of the drive-through?
It's the latter, Commissioner Glasgow. It's after 6 months, we try to have a tickler file of uses that have gone beyond their 6 months, and we bring them up just so they're not on the books forever.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stevens, any questions?
Are there plans to start using it again? I've heard, and again, that's why I'm bringing it here, through other people, that they're planning to do other things with the restaurant.
That could be directed to the applicant.
Commissioner Nelson?
No, I'm waiting for the applicant. Thank you.
Commissioner Kling? All right, thank you very much. We would love to speak to the applicant. If the applicant could please come forward and introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Justin Vitarello, and I'm the applicant. You want me to keep going, or should I? Yeah. So, one, just thank you guys all for, everything you guys do. For you guys who don't know, just to give a little bit of a history, in 2019, I came here and explored Cottonwood from the East Coast, and I was interested, sat down with everyone in the different divisions, luckily in person before COVID, so I got to know everyone in fire and police, and Scott and Gary have been great in terms of telling me how to succeed and all that stuff. Came out here with my life before COVID started and landed in Clarkdale, and COVID was here. So at that point, I sat in Clarkdale trying to figure out what to do with everything I brought across the country, and had befriended Tom Pender and had met Jet during the process of talking about this in 2019, and just had a vision with COVID that the drive-through was something that I thought would be really useful for people when they were concerned about, being close to folks. We were humming for a while. Right around the time when this stopped, we lost our chef. If you guys want to know why there are no Indian restaurants, chefs are about $100,000. They're being taken by Whole Foods, you name it. It's very hard to keep somebody of that skill. We're a vegetarian restaurant, which is also a hard thing to do here. So we were kind of up against some odds. So ever since that happened, things have been honestly very difficult for us. We own the property now. If you guys probably see the sign that we're now selling it. We didn't own it at the time, and we were in arbitration under a pretty simple contract, and eventually that all went through, and we bought it from Jet and Tom. And my hopes were to reopen and do all this stuff, but if you guys haven't heard, there was an incident at our place. That's okay. Yeah, but I'm letting you know that how these things started to kind of slide a little more. All that being said, I just showed the property to Scott from Main Street Cafe. I really would like to sell this to a local. I really want to keep this within the community, so I'm good friends with Ryan from Blazing Ranch. A lot of people are interested in the property. I do know that the most useful parts of the property are certainly the restaurant in the middle bay for the retail. There is a chance that we would look into doing just the drive-through and kind of sharing the kitchen with them. And having someone else, we're not going to be operating the restaurant. I do ask today if there's any way we could give this a couple months to kind of consider, because it's just been a lot for us. And I think there's a way that the drive-through could be a great thing once we have a little more stability. It was very hard to hire another chef and take them away from their city or wherever they're coming from when we were under arbitration. I didn't think it was the right thing to do. So we just finally bought the property 3 weeks ago. So I think there's a solution here where we could keep this, where a lot of people enjoyed going through the drive-through for $10 and getting a great meal. But you know, when my chef left, and we had just bought Tom's wine tour business, and so we just kind of doing too many things and too much change within the organization. But yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to hang out for a second. Let's see if any of the commissioners have questions. Commissioner Stevens, any questions?
He just answered.
All right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson, any questions for the applicant?
No, he just answered mine. Thank you.
All right.
Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Glasscott?
I'm good.
Okay.
Commissioner Kling?
Thank you.
All right.
Vice Chair?
No, thank you, Justin.
Okay.
All right. I feel like my main question was, if it's for sale, do you want to keep the drive-through element? But it seems like you do. And
Well, it's a possibility. You know, we're planning on, we have a place in Sedona, so we're going to do some stuff there, but we have all intentions of bringing people to Cottonwood. We have a very strong relationships with people in Scottsdale to take day trips up here. They love coming to Cottonwood. They love coming here. We want to take people on tours to Old Town, night shuttles, so we're totally, but I think us having this huge ecosystem there is over. You know, we want to be a little lighter touch here in Cottonwood.
okay. And do the stipulations, if we were to vote for the conditional use permit to remain, do the stipulations work with your business plan? Does having, mainly the one about making sure that the vehicles, I think it was number
Yeah.
1, yeah, that no vehicles shall remain on the property unless directly used for drive-through service?
Yeah, well, what I would just ask is that, like, I met with Gary and Scott and some others this week, and kind of what we talked about was a couple months to get the vehicles moved. You know, definitely by the time it's the strong season here, by middle of September. And so if we have a new owner and we sell it, it's just, there's so much influx right now that I think, yes, we want to adhere exactly by the site plan and do that. I just think the site plan at this point in time when it's for sale, it's too hard to tell, because with our place, the one big difference between us and every restaurant here is we have to provide parking. We're the only restaurant, right, that's in Old Town that has to provide parking. So it becomes, you know, we have to have 3 retail spaces. We have to have, I think, 18 parking spaces for our restaurant. So we're in a little bit of a different situation than other restaurants here that don't need to provide any parking. And so how the site map looks based on that, I think that's just something to consider, because the new owner, we would be leasing back from the new owner. We would say, look, and I think we can help a new owner buy the place because we can provide some value in a section of the property that is kind of hard to monetize. That's where I think we can come and help. It's easy to monetize the retail, it's easy to monetize the restaurant, but we would just, it's a time issue. It's not like we don't want to do it, but it's just like, I don't know what the new owner wants, and I kind of have to put their interests a little bit first in terms of what they want.
Quick question for staff. About the timeline we're hearing from the applicant and the stipulation, is that something, like, I actually don't know exactly how long applicants have to adhere to the stipulations necessarily. Would that be immediate?
Madam Chair, Commission, if the permit stayed, those stipulations would apply for the operation of the restaurant. So if the restaurant is not in operation, none of the equipment, none of the vehicles, none of that can stay on the property until that time comes.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Vice Chair.
I have a question for staff. What's the cost of applying for a conditional use permit?
Cost of applying for a commercial conditional use permit, Vice Chair Garrison, is, I believe, $800 for a new one.
How long does it take to get through the process typically?
2 to 3 months, generally. Yeah.
Would a new owner have to apply for one if they were to buy the property? Or does it kind of like grandfather?
If this were to be revoked and they wanted to do a drive-through element, yes, a new conditional use permit would be required.
But if, Madam Chair, Commissioner Stevens, if they did not need the drive-through, they just went in, opened the restaurant itself in the building, they wouldn't need conditional use permit.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions for staff or the applicant?
No.
All right. Thank you very much for coming up. You can be seated. And I think you're good too, Gary. I'm just going to open for the public. Do we have anyone here from the public who wants to speak either for or against this project? All right, I'm not seeing anyone coming forward, so I'm going to close the floor to the public. And now, once again, we're going to get the commissioner's thoughts. Commissioner Nelson, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I think revocation of the CUP is prudent at this point. If there's not been any use to it and there doesn't seem to be any potential use for it with this owner, I think it makes sense to let whoever is going to occupy that ownership moving forward be able to address if in fact they do want this drive-through or if they don't. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Stevens, what are you thinking?
I am on the fence. I agree with Commissioner Nelson. I also agree with the applicant if he can have maybe a couple months to see what's going to happen and then go from there. So I'm not quite sure at this point.
I'm still thinking on it. Commissioner Glasscott, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking, you know, if considering what he's gone through in terms of the time frame he opened and whatnot, I don't see a reason to revoke it because I think it's also an opportunity for him to solicit the property with that included, potentially. So the new applicant doesn't have to apply for it.
What are your thoughts, Commissioner Kling?
From a real estate perspective, I understand the conundrum of not knowing and the transition and it being rocky. I don't see any rush to require it to be revoked, but I guess it really depends on if you want to register those vehicles or come back for a permit if you need it.
Vice Chair.
So I want to start out by, I guess, giving Mr. Vitarello some kudos for what he's done. He came into this community quite a few years back and fell in love with our community. He's been a great advocate. He's been very creative in his use, sometimes a little too creative. But nonetheless, he has always tried to do things and model his business in a way that promoted not only Old Town, but the city of Cottonwood. And I think he's just been a tireless advocate for our community. And so on that hand, I really feel for the plight that he finds himself in with this conditional use permit and his property. But on the other hand, you know, I did read the article in the paper that says you're closing, you're out of here. I also heard you say that, you know, you're suing other owners of the property. And to me, when you get a conditional use permit, it's a very specific thing. It's built and it's modified in its acceptance based on your personal use of that property and how you want to use it and how you expect to run your business and put that into motion. If you're selling this property or you're even leasing it out to a new property owner or a new business to come in and set a kitchen up, set up their business, it becomes a different use because they're not going to open up Fojo Brothers. They're going to open up so-and-so barbecue or so-and-so whatever. which means it's now a completely different plan that is going to be presented to the city that we have to go through and look at how the traffic is going to flow, how the parking's going to work, how the outside entertainment's going to work. All the things that are inside that conditional use permit will change because the new owner will change. And so for that purpose, I believe we need to revoke it, we need to remove it, and we need to allow the new owner to come forward and explain how they want to use the property, and then we can build the stipulations directly to that use. That being said, if he has a future owner or tenant on the hook, and he thinks he can accomplish that in a mere 2 or 3 months, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing if there wasn't a way we could forego the application fee of $800, because that's just another barrier to getting another business into that building that I think would possibly allow them to proceed a little faster. So that would be my only condition I would see us adding to the revocation of this, would be to offset the cost.
Staff, is that something we can add?
No, Madam Chair, that's not something the commission can do. It's something that'd have to go to City Council for approval.
But the city council will have to approve this anyway, correct?
No. Conditional use permits are only approved at the P&Z level.
Our decision tonight is not a recommendation whatsoever. Our condition is final.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't realize we were speaking for the council. Thank you.
So I'm pretty torn on this, and I believe that part of that is because we so rarely handle revocations on this commission. I've been on this commission for years, and this is the very first one, to the best of my memory, that I've actually seen come before the commission. So it's a rare instance. I can understand, and I have sympathy for wanting to keep the conditional use permit, because it does, if you're talking to potential buyers, I can see how that could be an incentive for a buyer. However, to echo my vice chair's concerns, and also to focus them a bit, I remember voting to approve this, this drive-through the first time I was on the commission. And at that time, the primary concern that the commission had was safety, because there is there's a lot of foot traffic traveling right where those driveways are. And the Old Town area is very foot traffic focused, and only becoming more so with some of the new developments that we've had and the way that it's moving out in this direction. And I would be nervous, say, about a new owner coming in, because once someone comes in and buys the property, they're not necessarily like handshake deals that occur prior to purchase. You know, we can't guarantee those for the city. And I would be nervous about someone coming in and changing the nature of the restaurant, changing the nature of the drive-through. It's just something that I would like to see come back before the commission and have to receive a conditional use permit approval. It really just comes down to a safety concern for me. I am very sympathetic to wanting to have this to sweeten the pot. I just feel strongly that for the public good, it's in everyone's best interest if conditional use permits are provided to applicants who are planning on maintaining the property. You know, I think you've done really good work, and I remember thinking that it was very cool that this restaurant was going in. And so I do hope that someone comes in and it works out, and we have the chance to see you come back and request a conditional use permit again. At least that's my 2 cents. All right, one last chance for comments from the commission. I think everybody's said their piece. At this point, I am going to close the floor, and let's see, we're ready to entertain a motion, Mr. Vice Chair. And I believe we're going for, I counted it off, it sounds like revocation.
We'll start at the top and see how it goes, since I didn't get a clear reading on how the board was going to take it. So I move to revoke conditional use permit CUP 20-008 for the drive-through element for the restaurant, having found that the established drive-through use has been suspended for more than 6 months.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Glasscock,
No.
Commissioner Kling,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Garrison,
Aye.
Chairwoman Maston.
This one makes me sad, but aye. All right. Carried. Thank you very much for your investment in this community. And all right. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, we have conditional use permit 23-005. This is for a fence.
All right, good evening.
Good
Madam
evening.
Chair and Commissioners, thank you for being here with us this evening. I'm Clover Pinion, I'm with Community Development, and I'm here to present on the conditional use permit 23-005, where our applicants are requesting to put in a corrugated metal fence.
Excuse me. Clover, could you bring the mic down to towards your mouth? I don't think it's getting you.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that better? I'm gonna talk up. I know.
There you go.
All right, here we go. Okay, so the first thing here we have is our location map, which is going to show you obviously this site. It's going to be the line box there, and you can see around it, it's going to be mostly industrial, and then on the east side of it is going to be the heavy commercial, which is the 1 AZ Credit Union right there. The lot to the north is a vacant lot, and then the lot to the south is actually the lot where the applicant's business is actually conducted. So they're going to be using this for a storage yard. According to our zoning ordinance, the materials that's required for a fence right now would have to be wood, concrete, or woven wire fencing. It says for any considerations for that the applicant would need to apply for a conditional use permit in order to be able to use a specialty material. Just a couple other details there, just the size of the acre, 0.23. It's in a subdivision, which is the Mingus Industrial Park. And it's also, like I said, it's proposed a corrugated metal fence. A couple things to note. We did send out the code review comments in the packet. Fire did come in with a later comment, so we did amend that to include a Knox lock on the gate, because you'll see in the next slide, they're proposing a 35-foot rolling gate. In addition to that, we have also added stipulation at the end that I'll read, but we'd like to see a 10-foot landscape yard to be put in. And then also, just so that you're all aware, but it's also in the CRB comments, that Public Works has asked for a berm to be built up in order to help control the flow of water going onto the east side towards the credit union. So, a couple things there. The next is the site plan. Just a little note there, I think some of the maps we've been reading north has been on the top, so just here, just notice that it's on the right-hand side. So you can see there, they're recognizing that 20-foot setback. The fence is going to be 6 foot all the way around. On the south end, it will have that, the sliding gate. That will actually, the entrance for that gate will, they'll come through the drive-through on 231 Jennifer Drive, and then they'll be able to enter into their gated area there on that vacant land. And this is a sample of the type of fence that they would like to put up. So you can see, very attractive. And then here's just the site looking to the east. So there you can see a little bit of the building that they currently use for their businesses. And then looking south, a little bit better view. And there too, just to mention, there is a letter from the public, but they mentioned how this will be nice because it's going to help them to be able to put their, some of that stuff that you see stored there out in the open, they'll be able to put in that storage yard. This is to the west. It's just a complex of office buildings. And then this is to the north. So it's Jennifer Drive, which connects, I believe it's to Justin, which goes out to 89A. There are findings, obviously, that we have to come up with that are required by our code. And the findings that we found for this are just that the proposed fence obviously would not affect the health, safety, or welfare of any of the surrounding properties or occupants. It would obviously be compatible with the surrounding uses, as you could see from the pictures, and what other types of businesses and activities are going along on Jennifer Drive. And it would not affect the traffic generation, access, or circulation. All right, and then the stipulations here, which we'll go ahead and staff will read into the record now. So number 1, the project shall be developed in conformance with the site plan and letter of intent submitted with this application and reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission on July 17th, 2023. Number 2, the project shall conform to the Code Review Board comment letter dated July 11th, 2023, and any additional Code Review Board comments. Number 3, the project shall provide a landscape yard along the front lot line in compliance with zoning ordinance section 407 landscaping requirements. And number 4, a certificate of zoning compliance documenting the completion of conditions shall be issued within 24 months from the date of this approval. Short
Thank you
and
very
sweet.
much. Short and sweet. All right.
Do you have any questions for staff?
Yeah.
Commissioners? Go ahead, Commissioner Nelson.
Sorry. Nice presentation, Clover. It's
Thanks.
good to see you back. You had mentioned, or thought I read, that this type of material is not a standard use for fencing in the city?
Correct.
So with this new type of material, is there going to be any engineering required for the fencing because it's not a standard application here?
No, I would probably have we'd have our building official look at it for sure.
I think that would be a good idea, especially because those, whatever the panels are gonna be, if they come, especially not like today, if they ever come out of their structural element, we could have a problem. So I think that would be something I would like to see put in the stipulations as well if possible.
Okay.
That's it, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Commissioners, any other questions?
All right, we do
Yes.
have the applicant here as well, so if you have any questions for them.
Can you go back to the pictures you had,
Yeah.
the street view?
Yeah,
Next one.
so this one.
No, keep
No.
going. There we go.
Yes.
Whose vehicles are all those?
I believe they belong to, I don't know. I could not tell you.
So are there no requirements in this zone to have on-site parking? Because I drove by that today and it looked even more impacted than this when I went through. And there was, when that building was in its former use, the whole, what would have then been the east side of that parking was on-site parking, and it's now completely covered with material for the business, and which means the business is very busy, which is great, right? But unfortunately, there's now no parking on the property for any of the, what I would suppose or expect of those are the employees of said business. So that concerns me a little bit. The other thing that concerns me is the current property had landscaping in front of it. The landscaping in front of it, for the most part, looks like it's dead and is being used as its current parking. So to what point do we police, I guess, the requirement that landscaping's put in and then it's actually maintained? Because if we're gonna require them to put in 10 feet of landscaping, but then it's just gonna die and it's gonna be used for parking, then why go through the expense of doing it in the first place? So that's kind of my question is, one, is there any on-site parking required for this business in this zone? And number two is there any requirement to maintain the landscaping once it's actually installed?
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, the simple answer to both of your questions is yes. On-site parking is required. It is determined by the use. If a business comes in and takes over their parking doing something else, it is something we can address. Same with landscaping. Both those can be addressed through code enforcement. Typically, it's not something that we're aware of unless somebody comes to us for something, we receive concern, complaint from a resident or neighboring business owner. That's not something that's happened in this case. This is the first that we're all becoming aware of it as well.
And the reason I'm asking is, you know, last month we had the yard go in down on what's 7th place or 6th place in Aspen. And, you know, there was a lot of effort being made to make sure there was on-site parking for what essentially was a tow yard, which shouldn't have much real need for parking. And, you know, the discussion, at least my point of this was, you know, how much of an impact is that business going to create on the public street? And when I drove down this street today, there was only room for one vehicle to go one direction for the entire width of this site. And if you're trying to put a fire truck through there one direction, and you got the public using it, which it's fairly used street, then, you know, we got some significant problems when, in my mind, those vehicles should really be on site, not in the public right away on a typical basis. So that's why I was asking is who's maintaining this, or what is being done to verify that the employees are actually using the property. So, thank you.
I don't have any questions for you. Thank you very much, Clover, but we would love to speak with the applicant. Hello, please introduce yourself for the record.
Hi, my name is Chris Bean, co-owner with my brother Adam Bean of Tack Fabrication. That's our father back there as well, who owns Oak Creek Heating and Cooling, which we share the shop with on 241 Jennifer Drive.
All right. I'm just going to go through the commissioners and give them the opportunity to ask you any questions. Commissioner Nelson, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, hi Chris, thanks for coming in tonight, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Why metal?
Well, we won the cost. We could do a chain link fence and it would not be very much cheaper at all.
Okay.
And we have a metal fabrication shop. We do a lot of manufacturing, but we also do a lot of residential work, railings, fencing, and so on. So we wanted to do something that was cost effective, but also had some creativity to it as well, so that customers coming by could see, you know, an example of some work we could do. And as well, just make the shop and obviously the next lot to us look a little more presentable and professional.
And the color for the fencing would be what?
Would be a natural rusted corrugated fencing, which I think you were questioning the, yeah. So it is a very typical fencing material, and the post going in the ground is very standard fencing material. It's just the city ordinances don't allow this fencing without a conditional use permit.
Gotcha. Would you be opposed to my suggestion or stipulation that you got to get an engineer to give us some details on how to fabricate and how to install?
We could do that, I'd say, yes.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
thank you. Commissioner Stevens, do you have any questions? Commissioner Glasscott, questions? Commissioner Kling?
I don't have questions. I mean, the comment would be, I'm just for the distress finish, because if you use the raw silver, then the complaint becomes glare.
Yeah.
So as long as it stays something like that.
Vice Chair, any questions?
Well, the ones I asked, which maybe you can talk to, but before that, I want to say that I love the design. I really appreciate what you said is, you know, you got a business that makes metal, so use metal, and it gives you the ability to show off what you do, as well as another way to do something that would not necessarily look as well when it's all said and done. And we actually did get a letter in support of your corrugated fence, so I'm in favor of it, and I like that you're going rusted versus galvanized. That's going to look great when it gets a few of these seasons in it. So I'm in favor of the fence. I'm in favor of you closing in that area and being a better neighbor, because that sounds like what a lot of the issues resolve around. So my only issues stem from the questions I asked staff.
Yeah. So without the lot, I mean, we simply would not be able to do business without some of the material out front, thus leaving no room for parking. So this obviously will get rid of some of the material issue that we have. And two, I think it would help with the parking, like you pointed out, with the landscape out front. Yes, we've tried to keep as many vehicles off the street as possible, and then putting them kind of in the front landscaping area. So I would say, yes, we could try our very best to use and maximize this parking space that we have with this lot to get as many vehicles as possible off the street. In the park in general, in the area we are, the parking is limited in a lot of the businesses. So yeah, it is something that's we've had to deal with, and we don't like either. We rather have a parking lot for us and our employees.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. My only question is, are you planning on keeping the weeds mitigated around this fence? My concern is the metal becoming very hot and possibly sparking a fire against weeds. So
yes, we definitely are. And back to, we want to keep a presentable space and a professional space. So yes, we will do our best. And the material that we put down, the AB to compact it for a forklift, is very tough for weeds to even come up in the first place as well, which is nice.
Excellent.
So,
all right. Thank you very much.
thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Yes.
I have a suggestion for that stipulation as far as the one Commissioner Nelson pointed out, if I could read that into the record.
Please do.
All right. So number 5, the required fence permit shall include structural review.
All right. Fair.
I like it. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to have a little opportunity to give our opinions on the project. Oh, wait. Does anyone from the public want to speak for or against this project? All right, I didn't think so. So I'm going to close the floor to the public. Commissioner Nelson, your thoughts?
I think everything that's been said so far makes a lot of sense. Vice Chair, especially with his knowledge of that area and the fact that there is a parking issue that now staff will be addressing, I'm sure, in the near future. And the landscaping does make sense in an ordinance perspective, but I also agree with my Vice Chair is that enforcement has to happen. If you're going to make them do this, let's make sure that it's maintained and meets the city standard. But other than that, no, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Stevens?
I agree with what the Vice Chair said and Commissioner Nelson said.
All right, Commissioner Glascott?
I agree with everybody.
Commissioner Kling?
With concern to the landscaping, their metal fabrication, there's a lot of metal landscaping now that's available, and I'm just wondering if that would eliminate some of the maintenance issues. It wouldn't replace a tree outside of what we looked at earlier. Would be easier to maintain in the water.
Maybe something for the applicant to think about. Yeah, it is a really good idea. I've seen some very cool metal succulents. All right. I don't really have any comments on this one outside what my commission have already mentioned. So I believe that we are ready to entertain a motion, Mr. Vice Chair.
Move to approve CUP 23-005 for conditional use permit to allow a corrugated metal fence subject to the stipulations that were read into record by staff and the addition of the commission's recommendation.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Glascott?
Yes.
Commissioner Kling?
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garrison?
Aye.
Chairwoman Maston?
Yes. Unanimously carried. Congratulations. All right, we do not have any further discussion items on the agenda this evening. So now is a quick opportunity for the commission. Are there any suggested topics for future meetings? Yes, go ahead.
I noticed that we received an email from staff in the last couple of weeks concerning changes to our format in terms of getting prepared for the meeting. Can you please maybe expound upon that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Nelson, staff's just going to reach out to every commissioner prior to the meeting, make sure you don't have any questions that you'd like answered prior to.
I think it's a great idea. I've kind of thought about this all along. It makes a lot of sense. And then there was something about the slag pile too. Can you please elaborate on that?
None of this is on the agenda, so unfortunately this is not something that we can elaborate on or discuss until it is agendized.
Okay, great, thank you.
Legal Eagles. Any suggested topics for future meetings? All right, that looks like a no. All right, I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Aw, your very last one. And we're done. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Thank you.
Where are you going?